I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
That's Sparky.
And Salty.
Check this out, y'all. Shout out to the big homie, Jeremy Gregory.
Okay, that's not even working good at all.
It's not even working, huh?
Okay, let me see if I can get it. So.
Huh? Oh, that was really cool, babe.
See that?
See that? Mm-hmm. So that's going here. Here.
Jeremy Gregory sent us that. Were we supposed to say his name?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know if you're not supposed to say people's names.
JG. What was it? Pay no attention to the man
behind the curtain.
Oh man, that's awesome. So that's keeping Sparky and Salty company.
Yep.
So shout out to the big homie.
They can play poker while we're asleep.
Yeah. So I'm actually gonna teach you poker tonight. We'll have fun. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll destroy you. So we're doing a Blackfire show, man. I'm gonna do some Watain.
Okay.
I'm gonna do some Watain. So
Watain.
it is time. It is time. We haven't done a Blackfire show in quite some time.
No, we have not.
I sent an email to Watain's manager or whatever, and I said, we're willing to do an interview if you dare.
We're willing to do it. You're hilarious.
If you dare.
Yeah. Did you dare? You really?
I did. I said if you dare. So right now, Eric is afraid of me. Otherwise, why else would he do the interview? It's not that he's a big famous rock star and he has other things to do with his life.
We're just gonna stick with that he's scared.
He's
and maybe
afraid.
He'll stop being so fearful and meet with us Christians.
Jeez. Yeah, and you know, the big homie Arn Raw did an interview with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wasn't scared.
He wasn't scared. So there you go. By the way, if there's any like atheistic or whatever, or someone who would like be a fun debate partner for us, let us know. There's been a couple atheist YouTubers and stuff that I've said, hey, let's do some debate. So maybe if we could find a couple of them, that would be great.
Yeah, for our Vin and Soriality podcast.
For our Vin Soriality podcast.
Oh yeah, it's not Vin and Soriality.
All right. Here we go. Waters of Ain by Watain.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? The word Ain is in Watain.
Maybe we're going to find something out here. Okay, ready?
dark in the under. I give you my throne to devour, so that I may be judged in your death like prayer, purified. Your powers, the wisdom's deeper. I saw light with you, shall not wide. Truth and life, I am doomed to search.
was Waters of Ain. Mm-hmm. Ain. That solo at the end
was crazy.
Was probably one of the best solos I've heard in a very, 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 very long time.
I actually wanted to turn up the lights so I could see it. Because you could just see it, some movement, and you could hear him, but I wanted to see it more. But
the lyrics in this live video change from the lyrics that I see here, but
we'll still
we'll talk about it.
The idea.
I mean, it's an epic song in the sense that it's pretty long.
Yep.
Whew. I mean, that solo's just crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the solo was good. I actually liked musically how the whole thing went.
Yeah, it was heavy. Mm-hmm. That was really, really good musically. Mm-hmm. That was a crazy live performance. Like if I was like into that shit, if I was a Satanist, this would be my band.
Oh yeah.
For sure.
For sure.
But I'm not, so they're not my band.
Right.
I'm a Christian.
Right.
God Almighty.
I felt sad.
Yeah, you looked sad instead of terrified.
Yeah, I felt sad because I feel like there's some confusion, some obvious, like, if you're coming from a Christian worldview, some of the things that he was saying, there's obviously, he's been misinformed on some things.
Well, it's like I say all the time with Satanism, is that this form of Satanist, so he is a Gnostic chaos Satanist, or chaos Gnostic Satanism, or whatever. As much as I can tell, I mean, it's a form of Gnosticism. I mean, Kabbalah, obviously, the Ayin. I'm sure you recognize that. Mm-hmm. So there's the Ayin, the Ayin Sof, and the Ayin Sofar. Mm-hmm. So the Ayin Sof is limitless light.
Yeah.
But you'll notice it's the waters of the Ayin, not the waters of the Ayin Sof, because it's not light. Ayin is, by itself, is just nothingness or negation.
Okay.
So the waters of nothing, basically, and like the waters in the ancient Near East a lot of times are symbolic of chaos. Mm-hmm. You've heard like the waters of chaos, you know, that the Spirit of God is hovering over the face of the deep, you know, the waters of chaos, and then God brings order out of chaos.
Right.
And so like I guess the entire presupposition of that belief system is that, you know, the disorder, the chaos is where, you know, Satan is, or what you're trying to get to, or whatever, because order is too much of a confining principle, it seems.
Okay.
Of course, the irony of the whole thing is that it's impossible to be in a band without order.
Right. Right. Like, or else you wouldn't be able to make music.
Right.
You would bang on trash cans only.
Right. Well, and even if you're banging on trash cans, you're still doing it to a rhythm and a beat and meter.
No, he doesn't have to. You could just... But still, there would still be some order. You're banging on trash cans. That is an order.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. So it seems to me that the whole band itself is an exercise in self-stultification. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it kind of destroys itself by its very essence, because there's...
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And I'll tell you something. There is almost nothing in the human experience more orderly than music. So, especially metal music, because you've got to combine so many things simultaneously. And I'm sure when they were writing this song, there are things like, no, that doesn't work. Mm-hmm. Well, it doesn't work because it's disordered.
Right. And the thing about metal is it's kind of chaotic, but it's orderly chaotic, and that's where the beauty is. It's not like some music is just beautiful, start to finish. It just has beauty, but it doesn't have any chaos.
Right.
But metal kind of overlaps beauty and chaos.
It combines both elements of the brain.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Right, the left and the right together. So yeah, like the idea of like, you know, chaos, because and you see it there, like no corners define to the waters of Ain, no corners define, no circles confined, because definition and order I guess in their mindset is a form of confinement. It's a form of constriction.
Yep.
You know.
I misunderstood that. You know when they'll have, like, you see, like, satanic rituals or whatever, and they have, like, they draw a circle, and then they have, like, the star within the circle, and then they have to stay within that. They have to stay within that circle.
Yeah.
So I thought it was the experiences they get within that circle. He's assuming that when he gets out to the other side, there will be no circles that will define it. It will just be everywhere.
Well, I'm taking the chaos Gnosticism.
Well, no, I think you're right,
He's-
because I didn't hear there were no corners to find.
Yeah, G.K. Chesterton talked about this. He's a Catholic philosopher, and this was actually before he became a Catholic, but just the same. He was talking about how people look at, rules as confinement and a way to take their joy from them.
Yeah.
And he came up with this picture of, imagine if you had a bunch of kids playing at the edge of a cliff. Well, if you didn't give them any rules or any parameters, none of them would be having fun. They'd all basically huddle into the middle,
Right?
Because there'd be no way to get them off of falling off the cliff. But he said if you drew lines, 20 feet away from the edge, then the kids would be able to play freely because the lines give them the security that they're not going to fall off the cliff. And so Chesterton's argument was that the rules did not function to constrict their joy, but to give them
To increase joy. Oh, that's
Whereas
cool.
if you didn't have the rules, that would then it's the lawlessness, is the not having rules, not having something to confine you, constrict you, is what takes away your freedom actually.
That's interesting.
And again, it's like the other phrase where it's like it's better to be in a dictatorship than in an anarchy. Which this theory was tried out in Iraq. If you look at Iraq, Saddam Hussein I was watching this interview with these Christians, and they were saying it was better for us when Saddam was around.
Right, because there was some order to when he was there.
Yeah, and I mean, it was terrible because he could just randomly pick you, or Uday and Qusay, his sons, would go and randomly select whatever girl they wanted. But it's better than the shit that happened over the last 5 years,
right?
Because there was that power gap. So the entire premise of this view of the world seems to me to be fundamentally flawed, and it's very interesting to me that as a musician, you would, opt for a theory of chaos that doesn't have any order when you can't pull off a badass solo like he did at the end without strict adherence to order.
Right. Right.
and confinement. And for every note that he played in that sequence, there were notes that he purposely stayed away from.
Yeah.
Because he was operating within a certain scale and within a certain mode, musically. So I don't know. So that's just commentary on the whole, the whole religion as a whole. I mean, this guy, I'm pretty sure they're theistic in their Satanism, meaning they believe that he's an actual
it
spirit
definitely seems
whatever
that way.
And the concept of the Ayin is from Kabbalah, from Jewish mysticism. So anyway, take me home, ye beckoning ocean waves. My vessel's prepared. Eagerly my spirit yearns through the gates Transylvania calls.
What's Transylvania?
Transylvania is where Dracula comes from, isn't it?
I don't know. I just remember the kids have that little movie, Hotel Transylvania, and all the
that's
monsters
good.
are there.
Well, it's Dracula. That's where Dracula lives. Is
Okay.
Transylvania.
Okay.
And
So,
what?
okay.
So he's ye beckoning ocean waves again.
I mean, I don't want to sound ignorant, but why isn't Dracula? Are there some people that believe that? Like, why are you putting fiction into a real song? Like something that they believe in?
Well, I think Dracula is symbolic of evil and whatever.
Okay.
And Watain fans help us out.
I've literally never even seen anything about Dracula. The only thing I've seen about Dracula is Hotel Transylvania with the kids. So he's not really
actually
evil
the
there.
Muslims. The Muslims actually killed Dracula.
What?
That's a true story. That I'll explain that another time.
Okay.
My vessel eagerly, my spirit yearns. Yeah. So you see where it says beckoning ocean waves. If he's looking at the oceans as the waters of chaos, then he yearns to go into the waters of chaos.
Yeah.
The waters of the Ayin. This is like death, though.
Right. Yeah, I got that.
This is death. So like.
Yep.
Basically, he said something to the effect of like, you're only gonna know what the meaning of everything is when you die. You can't know it in life. In life, you're doomed.
Because he was talking about like basically chasing after truth or something.
Yeah. Anointed am I, exalted on a course to man-averse, cloven-hooved footsteps be. My footsteps be, the self withdrawn, expanding as the rays of death illuminate. The bridge and the path to the wars of Maine. So, anointed am I is sort of like a play on, you know, the biblical concept of anointing.
Which one is?
Where it says anointed am I.
Yeah.
So it's playing on the biblical concept of anointing. Right? Because the anointed one is Jesus. That's what the word
I am.
that's what the word Mashiach means, is anointed.
Okay.
The I am doesn't mean anointed.
No, it doesn't, but I was thinking about like where he says I am when he's talking to Moses. So I didn't know if there was a connection with that. He says am I, like it's flipped.
Am I? He's flipping it. Yeah, it could be very true. That's a very good catch. Ego I me. So anointed am I, exalted on a course to man averse. Like, so he's averse to mankind.
Uh-huh.
This is a crazy thing to me. Like, why would you follow as a man, why would you follow a being who is averse to mankind?
What does that mean, averse? Like against?
Averse, yeah, against. You know.
Well, I think you just, when you're on the side of the bad guy, you feel like you're not in a bad situation. You know what I'm saying? Like you've joined the bad. So like, yeah, Satan is against mankind, but maybe he doesn't feel like he's against him because he's joined his side. Like maybe he feels like he's left his humanity in a way, because, you know, if he has any sort of possession, I don't know, but if he does, he's essentially abandoned a part of his humanity to embrace some supernatural element that's made him less human.
Well, N.T. Wright talked about this, that hell, his concept of hell was to be a human being who has lost the image of God.
Yeah.
And to lose the image of God is to then cease to be human.
Uh-huh.
And Wright said, I don't know what that type of existence is.
Right.
To have that and then lose that. So, yeah, maybe that's what he's talking about. Mm-hmm. Cloven hooved, my footsteps be, you know, the devil has a cloven hooved.
Yeah.
The self withdrawn, expanding as the rays of death illuminate. The bridge and the path to the wars of Maine. So there it is. Where no corners define, to the wars of Maine, where no circles can find. To the twilight of time. So like,
it's kind of beautiful the way that it's like worded, because while he's incorrect in what like he thinks that he's just entering. Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe it is very chaotic wherever, you know, if you've embraced Satan and you want to go to hell with Satan, I don't know. But like when you think about heaven, where no corners define, no circles confine, like stuff like that, to the twilight of time, like he's talking about where he's going in the afterlife. But if he's embraced Satan, then he's essentially going to some chaotic hell of sorts. But he defines it differently than biblically it's defined. But when you think about going to heaven, and our knowledge and our understanding is going to broaden and increase, and we're going to see things differently than we ever did, and we're going to enter realities that we've only tasted of here. So I'm thinking like that kind of sounds like that. It's going to feel like it's broad, and like there's no corners and no circles, but there is, like there's still going to be things that are going to define in heaven. But
well, when I read or listen to or watch people's, you know, the Spirit Molecule video where these people go on these DMT trips.
Yeah.
One of the things that's almost universal when they really like, you know, go out is they start seeing these geometric shapes, but they're extremely complex.
Yeah.
And almost every single time I've heard it, people are like marveling at it and they're fascinated by it. Mm-hmm. They're fascinated by the order but the complexity within it.
Yeah.
And so I do think it's a very, very interesting concept of hell. And I actually think it's pretty instructive and very interesting that he wants a place that doesn't have any order and doesn't have, you know, that type of, you know, complex. Well, yeah, you can't have complexity and disorder, right? Because
you can't.
You cannot, because complexity is, you know, like if you had a beat and then you had a couple beats. Complexity is unity and diversity happening in ever-increasing measures.
How do you know that chaos isn't a higher form of complexity? You just don't understand it.
Because by the definition of the word. I mean, complexity is unity and diversity happening in ever-expanding ways, right?
Yeah.
So if I were to say, that's a beat, right? But there isn't much diversity there. Mm-hmm. But if I were to say, that's more complex because there's more diversity happening, but it's still unified.
Yeah.
So chaos, by definition, can't be complex because there's no unity in diversity. It's just randomness. It's like complete randomness. So when he's,
I'm saying, how do you know that chaos is randomness?
that's the definition of randomness.
That's how we define it. But if we pulled back and we saw chaos, would it be chaos, or would we see some complexity in it?
If you see complexity, then there's no
Then
chaos.
it's no
Then
longer
it's not chaos.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It's a definitional of the term.
I see what you're saying.
But
okay.
but so it's an interesting concept of hell to think of hell as chaos and no lines being drawn or whatever. I mean, my concept of heaven is that the circle that we're in broadens eternally.
Yeah.
Or the box that you're in expands eternally in ever increasing geometric. If I look at it from this perspective, our perspective of heaven is that there are shapes that you've never even seen before that interact and are extremely beautiful and extremely liberating. But from their perspective, any sort of order, it seems to me, is not where you want to be. And so if God, and the scripture, it's interesting as the scripture says God's a God of order, not a God of confusion. Right?
Yep.
And so if you're to reject God is to embrace chaos
Yeah,
and nothingness. So like it says right there, to unmask the featureless face and know its numbing beauty.
Yeah.
That's a self-stultifying statement. Because featureless, you cannot have beauty without a feature. If you look at all the debates, we were talking about Thomas Aquinas, where Aquinas defined beauty as symmetry, right? And so, and oddly enough, so does Danny Filth in her Ghost in the Fog. Lips attuned to symmetry sought her everywhere. Like the reason that you're beautiful is because you're so symmetrical in your proportions, right? And so like to the featureless face, like if a person had a featureless face, like that's where all your personality comes from.
Yeah.
It's the features on your face, right? And so what's interesting is he's looking at that as a positive thing. And I think your theory is right. Like this is a form of dehumanization at the highest level or the lowest level, depending on how you want to look at it.
I want to go back to what you said, like your personality is in your face. I think that we define our personality by our face, but I don't think that that's necessarily the case, because then you don't lose personality as you age and your face begins to sag in you. Or if I got burned in a fire tomorrow, I wouldn't lose who I was. It would change me, but...
Well, think about this. Like if a person ages and they have those wrinkles, then that still does carry your personality, because what that means is you're no longer the same person you were prior to entropy hitting your face. So there's still a one-to-one correlation between your face and your personality, for sure. Like for example, when a person is dead and they're on the ground with their eyes open, you still can know they are dead by looking at their face. So the features on your face are absolutely important as far as the correlation between that and your personality. I'm not saying there's a one-to-one correlation, but there's definitely a correlation there. For sure.
I would agree with that.
To remove the fig leaf and enter beyond. Yeah, that's an interesting metaphor.
Yeah, because when these kind of parts came up, I was like, the things that he's like describing. First of all, I don't even know what he was trying. What do you think he was trying to get at when he says that? Do you have anything to say about it? I'll just tell you after you say.
Well, the fig leaf was used by Eve to cover her nakedness.
Right.
And it was the awareness of shame because of sin due to the fact that they ate from the tree that Satan convinced them to eat from. And so what he's saying is, I'm going to remove that shame that's associated with satanic knowledge and indulge in it and enter into it. And a lot of that has to do with sexuality. Because a lot of these people believe that the sexual restrictions in the Bible are somehow, restrictive of joy again. And of course, go to the CDC website. Okay? We'll post the link in the description. And you tell me if restricting sexuality is a good or a bad thing.
Right.
Go ahead.
No, you can finish your thoughts on it, and then I'll say mine.
Well, it seems to me like these people are not very respectful of women.
Yeah, I mean, the way that was worded was kind of...
You know, like, it seems to me that it's like Eve is a religious character. And of course, you know, I mean, I don't know where Watain stands on, you know, but it's a very strange thing to me, like, using language like that about women. Like, people seem to get a pass. I talked about this too with what's his face, Nergal, talking about raping the universe or whatever. Like you get a pass on that because you're satanic and Eve is a biblical character.
Yeah.
So if it's a biblical woman, it's the same thing. You know, what's his face, Nergal used the same language about Eve in Blow Your Trumpets, Gabriel, or whatever. Like. So
one of them said it about Mary too. Something.
Well, yeah,
like
it was about it was Nergal, yeah.
Yeah, you said Eve.
So it's this very strange thing where it's like, in the current in the current culture that we're in right now, as far as
the
women and
movement and all that stuff, like
women's rights and all the rest of
Yeah.
it, like you can just reduce, you know.
Yeah.
You get a pass if you're talking about a religious woman.
Yeah.
Then it's okay to.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just stuck on the word because maybe he's not talking. Like I said, I don't think he's talking about that at all per se. I think it's metaphorical for something else. But just the language is very interesting to me. What were your thoughts on it?
Well, I didn't really know what he was talking about or what he was trying to say, but I just thought even if you just look at it, he talks about a fig leaf. He talks about her genitalia, and then he talks about fruits forbidden. And, like, all of those things, like, the fact that, like, the fig leaves are there because God created them, and that was part of an environment that he gave them when he first created the world. And then the fact that God created gift God created sex, rather, as a gift, and as a way to, like, fill the world with more image bearers and more people like him.
Right.
And so this guy has this crazy idea that when he enters the chaos, that he's somehow, there's going to be a fig leaf to even remove, and there's going to be sex to even be had, which is untrue because all of these, remember we said that hell is when, you know, all of those gifts and all of that goodness is taken away and you're left with just what's left. And so those things won't be there. There's not going to be sex in hell. There's not going to be, because those things are gifts.
Right.
So I was just,
and
you know, he's presupposing that those things are going to still be there for him because he's so used to having those things that he's assuming that that's still going to be available to him and he can somehow treat it like that.
Of course, even with sexuality, there's a certain order to it.
Yeah. Right.
I mean,
you don't go in the air.
there is an obvious order, even within sexuality, that makes it enjoyable. You blessings in the unleash your bitter rivers, burn this tongue of mine, oh wormwood sweet, damnation's infernal wine. Yeah, I feel like these people, like, they have this idea that you can kind of, like, I don't know, like, rule in hell, like, you can kind of, like, be the devil's understudy and, like, you know, it's almost like he, you know, unleash the bitter rivers and burn this tongue and, oh, wormwood sweet. It's kind of like this idea that, like, you can kind of ingest all the shit that goes down in hell and eventually get used to it to the point where you would like it. Yeah. Like, that's kind of like...
But that's what makes me feel bad for him, is because I feel like that he believes that and he's accepted that and he's wrong. So I don't know, like, I understand he's a grown man and he's making his choices and his decisions and stuff like that. But at the same time, I'm like, how...
Well, you look pretty sad when he said, don't mistake me for a star, though I'll shine like them at night.
Yes. No, see, I'm going to feel like crying. I'll hold it back. I felt bad because don't mistake me for a star. We won't. Nobody's going to mistake him. There's not even, like, when hell is talked about, it's talked about like it's a dark place and stuff like that. Like, you're not going to mistake anybody for stars. It's not a good place. Like, and the fact that he would even have thought that, like, somebody could mistake him for the star. Like, I don't know, it just makes me sad.
Maybe he's speaking as the devil. Because the devil's a fallen star. He's an angel of light, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, don't mistake me for a star, though I'll shine like them at night. But behold instead the darkness in between them, the devil's light. No, he's talking about himself, I guess.
Yeah.
because it says a voyage without end across the ageless waters to shine beyond.
I know, that's what made me. There's not going to be any shining. That's
Right,
not
right,
how
right,
that is. And I feel like he's. I don't know what his life is outside of that stage, but the stages always look really dark. And then, you know, we've got an upcoming interview where they talk a little bit about, you know, some venues don't even want them there because they carry all of that pig's heads and blood and all that nastiness. So like, I don't know, like I feel like that they're filling their whole life with all this stuff that they believe to be what's gonna be good for them in the end, and
They're
then
doing what we're doing. Like I get it.
I feel
I
like,
get it. We're just saying he's on the wrong team, but he's devoted like we're devoted.
Yes, but what I'm saying is, even like if you just look at like, maybe I'm just coming from my OCD behavior, but like friggin', if I had to sit around if I had to be on the road all the time and not be in a home, I would want that place to be homey, not
Right.
smelling like friggin' dead animals.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And if you look at them, they don't look happy.
Well, I mean, some of them, you know.
I don't know. When I was watching him sing, he just looked like
He looked like he was talking to the devil, like at some points, like
yeah.
when it wasn't his turn.
I just
to
don't
sing,
like
he
people
was-
being confused like that. And people, I'm sure people would say the same thing about us.
I don't know. He looks to be pretty clear-eyed here. He just seems to be. It seems to me that he knows what team he's on. He's very.
No, I think he knows what team he's on, but I think he's misinformed as to what that team is going to look like when because he's talking about it like he's going to go on like it's like he wants to.
Like he's
like
gonna
it's beckoning
shine.
him and he's going to shine
yeah.
and there's going to be all this and
Yeah.
there's something else that he said at the end that it made it sound like that he's had almost like he's been looking for truth.
A truth that in life I'm doomed to search, but shall die to find.
Right. So he's saying that he can't. He's searching for truth. He can't find it, and he thinks he's gonna find it when he dies.
He will.
Okay. Well, that makes me feel sad for him.
I mean, for better or worse, he absolutely will. We all will. But what's interesting, Saturn Saturn came up with a tool. Now it's come up again.
Yeah.
Yikes. I give you my soul to devour. So Saturn ate his kids. He ate his children. So here I guess he's personifying Satan as Saturn. That I may
Well,
be
that's
judged
accurate.
in your death like glare and purified.
That made me sad too, because nothing about Satan is gonna purify you. But the fact that you're thinking that something's gonna purify you means that you must feel dirty.
It depends. It depends
What do you
on
mean
what
it
he
depends?
means by purification. Because purification means to separate, basically, is what
Yeah.
purification means. So if he wants to separate himself from the last vestiges of religion, that's a form of purification. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
Thou art the wisdom keeper. Nope.
well, it says the serpent was more crafty than all the beasts of the field. So he's full of wisdom and perfect in beauty, the scripture says. So, I'm not defending Satanism. I think Satanism is terrible. I think it's a terrible idea, and I think it's wrong. Here's the deceptive part about the devil is when it talks about shining and it talks about wisdom, he's not the total negation of those things, because the scripture does say that he's bright and it does say that he's wise.
Uh-huh.
Right, so the devil is described as being a very, full of wisdom, perfect in beauty, bright shining star.
He's not sharing those things.
All this stuff, and no, he's not sharing them, and they don't originate in him. They originate in Yahweh.
Right.
Right. So he's not the originator of all that stuff, but he is that stuff, and that's where the deception comes in. So his burning ship departs out from these shores, never to return. So he sets sail toward the setting sun at the end of the world. Yikes. Yeah, so I guess this is like a death thing. This is what he thinks is going to happen after death, which of course all of us are going to gain a new level of gnosis once we die. But the other thing that's interesting to me about all this is you're very, very sad about this situation, and you should be from a Christian perspective. But when people talk about hell and people talk about your God is so evil, how could he make a hell? Well, this guy's writing a song about wanting to go there. He doesn't have a song I want to go to hell, but the waters of chaos, the aeon, negation, nothingness, following the devil. Like, this is a guy who does not want to be where God is. Right? That's obvious. And he is completely and totally entranced with the darkness of the enemy of God. And so, what do you want God to do? You yank this poor fella up and shove him into heaven against his, this guy clearly, and I have a problem with the concept of hell. I mean, we famously had that discussion, but at the same time, it's like, okay, this is why people go there, because this is what they desperately want, and he's doing it with a pretty clear-eyed view into what that is, and I think your reaction is right. Like, from a Christian perspective, if we truly believe the stuff that we read, and if we've experienced God the way we've experienced it, then of course we're going to be sad for him. The music, though, was very, very melodic, very entrancing. These guys, this is a second. Malfeitor was on this one too. Malfeitor was song 2. This is song 10. Very, very melodic song. Very epic, very melodic. The solo, that solo was special, man. That solo was really, really, really special. The metal was really, really good. I mean, these guys are top-notch musicians, in my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that they did work really well with it. I just can't get past the sad factor.
Yeah,
I just can't get past that.
Yeah.
I can't even rate it, because it actually makes me feel too sad. Like, I just feel like in my stomach feels upset. Because I don't know. And I understand, like, he's making his decision and stuff like that, but it just... And people probably think that my reaction's kind of crazy, but if you believed the way that I believe, then I believe it'd make you sad too.
Well, yeah, I mean, this guy is a little bit different than Behemoth.
It's completely different to me.
This guy is, he's really devoted to this shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I give you my soul to devour.
Yeah.
See, that's like the ultimate deception, because, like, if you were to run into him and be like, "Hey, man, like, you're completely wrecked," he'd say, "Yeah, that's part of the purification process." So, like, there's nothing, like, empirically that you could show him to get him out of this.
The other thing too is, like, people will be like, "Oh, like, you listen to your God, and you worship him and stuff, and you're basically like his little slaves," and people will say stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, like, if we friggin' said shit like that, oh yeah, I give my soul to God, he completely devours it. People would lose their friggin' minds, but they hear this and they're like, yeah,
water's the vein. Yeah.
You know what that reminds me of too? That was another thing when I was watching this video. Like, I remember growing up, and I remember people being like, "Why do you guys raise your hands when you're at church?" And, like, laughing about it like it was stupid. And had I known that at all these rock concerts people do it, I would have been like, what happens at a rock concert?
Yeah.
Why are you raising your hands at a rock concert?
Yeah.
Like, there's some correlations between the two. But I didn't even know that people did that, so I thought, that is kind of weird. Like, I know why I do it, but, like...
What's interesting is that, the shoreline where truth shall unwind. That this guy is not a postmodernist. A lot of these people are like, "Oh, there's no such thing as truth," or somebody will say that you're arrogant if you think you know the truth.
Yeah.
Like, he believes that there's an objective, solid truth that exists outside of the human experience. It is objective truth, by my definition, is objective reality and fact that is discovered by human beings, not invented by human beings.
Right.
And that's what he said. That's what he's saying. So he believes that there's ultimate truth. He's not like these wishy-washy postmodernists that just say, "Oh, believe whatever you want," and blah, blah, blah. Like, he believes that there's an objective, solid truth that humans have to discover and not invent.
Yeah.
And now it's just very fascinating to me, because most people our age right now are completely postmodern. They don't believe in any truth, and the only thing that offends them is when you say, "No, this is true, this is false."
Yeah.
So
when he says, "The shoreline where truth shall unwind, a truth that in life I am doomed to search but shall die to find," like, it sounds like he searched all his life for truth. He's gonna find it when he dies, but when he reaches that shoreline, it's going to unwind. Truth that unwinds sounds like it's coming apart.
Well, again, it's chaos.
So he's gonna have it just to lose it.
Well,
like in that moment when he passes from life to death, like he's gonna know a truth that he's never known before, and then all that truth is gonna begin to unravel.
Well, I mean, that's probably if he dies in this
I feel
state,
like that's a pretty accurate description of what hell might be like, and how does he have that understanding and still pursue after it?
I mean, that's. But again, you know, spirituality and how people are with God. Like I was talking to a person, and he's like, "What's the objective proof that Jesus did this?" And then I gave the answer. Then he goes, "Well, an unnamed person." And then I gave the person's name, and then he's like, "Ah," you know, like it's just, you know, it's human nature. Like there's a lot of, if you think that the only reason that you believe or don't believe something is purely by your cognitive faculties, you're completely self-deceived. Push off. We don't believe or disbelieve the things that we hold to purely because we've looked at the evidence. If you think that, then you have no awareness of yourself whatsoever. And
I think only machines can do that.
we'll show evidence of that pretty soon.
Right?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what it is to be human. You know, human
Right.
beings are not confined by propositions. Mm-hmm. You know, like, and Peterson said it very, very succinctly when he was quoting Carl Jung, actually. He said, you know, people don't have ideas. Ideas have people. And that's important. This is a guy who's obviously possessed by an ideology. Mm-hmm. And so are we. Mm-hmm. And the difference between us, this is what we have in common with this guy.
He knows it and we know it.
He knows it and we know it.
Yeah.
He admits it and celebrates it. We admit it and celebrate it. And the most
Word.
of you, not so much.
Join us.
Well, don't join him.
I said join us.
Join us. Watch all. All right. Well, Sori's not sad anymore, so I'm happy. Well, she's probably still kind of sad, but you know, she's kind of... All right, Vin out.
Sorry out.
Gone. Don't worship the devil.
Don't do that.